Thank you. Good morning. Welcome to the Ipswich City Council council meeting for April. It's the 30th of April 2026 and the start time is 9 a.m. I'd like to welcome all the councillors here. We have everyone except for Councillor Doyle in attendance, and Councillor Doyle is on Teams. I'll just do a sound check with Councillor Doyle that you can hear us and we can hear you.
Loud and clear. Thank you, Mayor.
Fantastic. Thank you. I now move on to item 2, which is the acknowledgement of country. And if City Council respectfully acknowledges the traditional owners as custodians of the land and waters we share. We pay our respects to their elders past, present and emerging as the keepers of the traditions, customs, cultures and stories of proud people. Item 3 is the opening prayer, and we're really fortunate this morning to have Pastor Brad Payne from the Catalyst Church in Ipswich. And you're no stranger to the chamber, so Pastor Brian, may I ask you to, Brad, to come up to the lectern, please. Thank you. Please introduce yourself. Feel free to talk a bit about what the Catalyst Church is doing before you lead us into prayer.
By all means. Thank you, Mayor, Deputy Mayor, councillors, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Brad Payne, and this is the first time I have the honour of leading prayer in council as the newly appointed lead pastor at Catalyst Church since my appointment in November 2025. Previous to that, I'd been serving in the position for the last 4 years as the senior associate pastor, but we had a change in leadership. I will admit that Catalyst has weathered a challenging season in the past 12 months, as all organisations do from time to time. However, since my appointment, I've had the opportunity to release a new vision statement for Catalyst, which is simply a church that will love, live and lead like Jesus. Catalyst is not about a leader per se, it's about reflecting Jesus in all we say and that all we do. We recently celebrated our 40th anniversary since the church purchased the Sutton's Foundry site and undertook major renovations. We now have a memorial wall in our Foundry Cafe highlighting the staff and the activities of Sutton's Foundry during its operation in Brassel. We're currently working on plans to open a care shop, an op shop for the want of a better term, this year, providing people in our community with access to quality pre-worn clothing. The aim is also to open a hamper shop with discounted food to also help people make ends meet in this difficult time. I'm happy to report that the church is also growing with many new families, testament to our goal to be a light shining a message of hope and love. So thank you for the opportunity to open this session of council in prayer. I believe that prayer is a powerful tool for dealing with a range of issues. In uncertain and stressful times, prayer can offer peace and encouragement, guidance and direction, reminding us that God is still in control and that we should trust his plan. So let's pray. Mighty God, I dedicate this session of the Ipswich City Council to you and ask that you impart your favour and wisdom in all their deliberations today. Let their discussions and their debates be honest and considerate. Let the discussions made in these chambers reflect the needs of our community and your divine will. Thank you for a council that still acknowledges the importance of prayer. I pray for members of the council and ask today that you will be with our Mayor Teresa Harding, Deputy Mayor Nicole Janik, CEO Sonia Cooper, and our councillors Pi Augustine, Jacob Madsen, Paul Tully, Marnie Doyle, Andrew Antonelli, Jim Madden and David Martin, that their representation will be in the best interest of the people of the city of Ipswich. We thank you, God, for Ipswich. Thank you, Lord, for the growth that we're seeing in our city. And we ask that you continue to bless us with a safe and healthy and vibrant community. Bless all these proceedings, we pray today, in the mighty name of Jesus Christ. Amen.
Amen.
God bless. Thank you.
Thank you, Pastor Brad, and thank you very much for heeding the call to serve our community. Thank you. We're now moving to apologies and leave of absence, and there are none. Item 5 is condolences, and we have a condolence motion for Paul Tully. So, Councillor Tully, I'll hand over to you to lead that motion.
Which I had about 2 minutes ago. Thank you. This is in relation to Savannah Luck Chumanavong, who was known as Luck, who was working for many years at the Goodna Neighbourhood House, East Late of Redbank Plains. Savannah Luck Chumanavong, known to many as Luck and affectionately called Tai within the Lao community, lived a life devoted to family kindness and service to others. Born in Savanakhet, Laos on the 9th of October 1958, Luck was greatly influenced by his father, Sisavan Chumanavong, a respected town mayor who supported many people during a challenging time of the country's history. Luck was one of 12 children growing up in a large family where values of leadership, compassion and helping others were deeply instilled in him. Carrying these values with him, Luck migrated to Sydney, Australia in 1977, where he proudly built a new life and became a dedicated member of the community. He eventually settled in Ipswich, where he raised his first children, Sisavan Nino and Fuvalak Nina. Later in life, he welcomed his youngest son, Sisavan Luka, in 2023, whose name means bringer of light. Luka's arrival brought great joy to the family. For over 30 years, Luck devoted himself to serving the community in Ipswich's eastern suburbs through the Goodna Neighbourhood House, where he helped thousands of individuals and families from all walks of life. Known for his generosity, warmth and willingness to help anyone in need, he became a respected and cherished figure in our local community, which he loved so dearly. Savannah Luck passed peacefully on the 1st of March 2026, surrounded by his loved ones and blessed by a Buddhist monk. His kindness, humility and lifelong service touched many lives. His legacy will continue to live on in the hearts of all who knew him. May he rest in peace.
Thank you so much, Councillor Tully. Item 6, tributes, and there are none. Item 7, presentation of petitions, and there are none. Item 8, presentations and deputations, and there are none. Item 9, public participation, and there's none. Item 10, matters of public interest, there is none. Item 11, declarations of interest in matters of the agenda. I've only been notified of one. I think there is one from Councillor Madsen in regards to the Finance and Governance Committee, so I'll hand over.
Thank you, Mayor. In accordance with Section 150 EQ of the Local Government Act, declare a conflict of interest in item 4 of today's report, numbered 15.3, Finance and Governance Committee. That being, I was a former member of the executive of the Ipswich Trades Hall and Labor Day Committee. So I'll leave the meeting while the matter is discussed and voted on.
Thank you very much, Councillor Madsen. Any other declarations of interest? Thank you. If anything does come up, please let me know and we'll manage it in accordance with the legislation. Item 12 is the confirmation of minutes, and the first lot of minutes here is 12.1, the confirmation of the minutes of the ordinary council meeting. And are there any queries on those minutes? In that case, I will move that the minutes of the ordinary meeting held on the 26th of March 2026 be confirmed. Do I have a seconder for that? Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Any errors, amendments, corrections? No, I'll put the matter to the vote. Those in favour, please raise your hand. It's unanimous in the chamber. Councillor Doyle, how do you vote?
Affirmative, Mayor.
Thank you. Item 12.2 is the confirmation of the minutes of the special meeting. Any questions on those? In that case, I will move that the minutes of the special meeting held on the 9th of April 2026 be confirmed. Do I have a seconder for that? Thank you, Councillor Augustine. Any errors, amendments, corrections? No, I'll put that to the vote. Those in favour, please raise your hand. It's unanimous in the chambers. Councillor Doyle, how do you vote?
Do.
Thank you. Sorry, that was only a half. We only heard half of that.
Sorry, affirmative, Mayor.
Thank you. We'll now move on to item 13, which is a mayoral minute, and there is none. Item 14, business outstanding, there is none. We'll now move on to item 15, which is the reception and consideration of committee reports. And the first one that will come to us today, 15.1, is the report of the Special Economic and Cultural Development Committee, 26th of March. And I'll go to, so that was a special meeting, so I'll move that. Do you have a seconder for that, Councillor Augustine? Thank you. Any discussion on that matter? No, in that case, I'll put the matter to the vote. Those in favour, please raise your hand. It's unanimous in the chambers. Councillor Doyle, how do you vote?
Affirmative.
Thank you. The next item is 15.2, which is the report of the Infrastructure Planning and Assets Committee of the 21st of April. I'll hand over to that committee chair, Councillor Antonelli, to see how you would like this report managed.
Thank you, Mayor. I'd like to move the Infrastructure Planning and Assets Committee number 2026-03, dated the 21st of April 2026, for reception and adoption, subject to, in item 2, the deletion of dot point 4 in paragraph A of the recommendation.
So I just get that. So that's item 2, and that is the response to the petition.
Correct.
And you're wanting, and what are you suggesting that we remove?
Deletion of dot point 4
Which is to
in
main
paragraph
consistency.
A of the recommendation.
To remove that to main consistency. Thank you very much. Councillor Tully's seconded. I'll hand over to you now to speak to the matter, Councillor Tully.
I'm happy that the report is tabled and as read.
Thank you. Councillor Tully as a seconder, would you like to speak to the report?
Briefly in relation to that item of the petition. So I think the recommendation is focused solely on what the petitioners wanted, and also what the community might want or might be opposed to. And I think the recommendation with that slight amendment is an appropriate outcome.
Thank you. Look, in speaking to this committee report, I'd like to just note some of the cost escalations that are occurring on the Springfield Parkway Stage 2 works. According to the Asset and Infrastructure Services Department Capital Delivery Report, the forecast expenditure for this financial year has risen from the 7.5 million to 9.5, and I do note the increase from AGIG in regards to the gas main relocation, adding a further $2.21 million in that. And I know that's something that we're looking at as a council as the costs of living go up, but also with the fuel crisis and the impacts it's having on our bottom line and for the ratepayers. Councillor Dilly, any right of reply or stretch the vote? Yep, she can. She can jump in at any time.
Well, I was the mover, so I offered not to speak to the report in the first place. I guess I'm just waiting for the conclusion of
Yes, that's
discussion.
Right. That's why I've come to you for a right of reply.
Okay, very good. If the Councillor Doyle doesn't wish to speak to the matter, just in relation to Councillor Tully's comments in relation to item 2, yes, Councillor Doyle and I are very well aware of the community's concerns there in relation to that petition, and also aware of matters pertaining to that park of late that probably also have impacted the reason for this decision. So we do thank those people who lodged the petition, but unfortunately we can't support it at this stage. Thank you.
It's unanimous in the chambers. Councillor Doyle, how do you vote?
Affirmative, Mayor.
Thank you. We now move on to item 15.3, which is the report of the Finance and Governance Committee. Councillor Tully, I think you're going to extract one item. Is that right? I'll hand over to you to...
And Governance Committee Report number 2026-03, with the exclusion of item 4, which I will move separately, and with a proposed amendment in relation to, which has been circulated in relation to, it's on page 46 of 133, and on page 7 of 8, just to make it clear, when the meeting resumed at 10:22 a.m. Prior to that, Councillor 10:21. The meeting hadn't resumed at that stage because there was a lack of a quorum. So I'm happy to read the proposed amendment, which is on the screen, but which all councillors should have, that just clarifies when Councillor Madsen left and when the other two councillors were already there at the start of the meeting.
Through the chair, just a grammar error. Madsen left.
Yes, not left. Thank you. You okay with that, Councillor Tully?
What's it say?
Does that mean you're happy to second the motion and the amendment? Thank you. Thank you. Any objections? Thank you. I'll hand back over to you, Councillor Tully.
No, I have nothing further to add. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Johnnick, as the seconder, do you have any?
No, thank you, Chair.
Thank you. I'll open the floor. Any discussion? None? Okay, I'll put the matter to the vote. Those in favour, please raise your hand. It's unanimous in the chamber. Councillor Doyle, how do you vote?
Affirmative, Mayor.
Thank you. I think we then go to item 4 of 15.3. Sorry, Councillor Madsen.
I'll move that item 4 in relation to the Ipswich Trades Hall park recommendation be received and adopted, subject to an additional paragraph which has been circulated, and I'll read that, paragraph C, that Council publish attachment 5, subject to the redaction of personal and private information in accordance with Council's information privacy obligations.
Thank you.
Second that, Mayor.
I'd just like to do a foreshadowed motion before we go into that. And my foreshadowed motion to the Secretary and to the Council here is that in line with the officer's recommendation and evidence provided, in line with the officer's recommendation and evidence provided, comma, that Council refuses the Ipswich Trades Hall and Labor Day Committee's request on the basis that Council is not and has never been subject to any legal obligation to provide car spaces at nil cost.
Excuse me, Chair.
It's A, B and C. Yes?
Chair, just want to bring to your attention, the audio does seem to be dropping out intermittently, both respect to when you were talking as well as Councillor Tully. I do hear everyone loud and clear. However, there are times when it's just going silent. I also just want to confirm I did second.
Yes, you did second. So Councillor Tully,
Thank you.
you're the seconder. Do you want me to reread out the foreshadowed motion or just leave it to see what happens?
I can see it on the screen.
Great, okay. Could you just jump in if something drops out?
Certainly.
Thank you. Councillor Tully, as a move of those three, recommendation A, B and C, I'll hand over to you to speak to the report.
Yes, I do understand that Councillor Doyle may have an amendment to the motion. Could I just clarify that, please?
Yes. Thank you, Councillor Tully. Through you, Chair. Yeah, I propose an amendment which I have circulated and given to the Secretariat.
And you circulated to councillors, I think, yesterday as well.
Yeah, that's correct. So the amended recommendation will read A, that Council approves offering up to 5 car park spaces located in the Nicholas Street Precinct car park to the Ipswich Trades Hall on an informal, non-perpetual basis, on the basis that the arrangement could be terminated at any time at Council's discretion, and conditional upon 1, the location of the spaces offered being subject to Council's discretion from time to time. 2, the spaces, which it is understood could be reserved for ITH, being accessible, A, only to visitors to and committee members of the Ipswich Trades Hall, and B, only between Monday to Friday. And 3, the agreement, licence or other document drafted to document this arrangement contain an appropriate release and indemnity so that council will be discharged of any future obligations or liability in relation to car spaces for Ipswich Trades Hall. And then the B, the final part of the recommendation, that council be kept informed as to the progress and outcome of that approach.
Thank you. Could I just confirm that also C would remain as well? Councillor Tully moved, which council would publish attachment 5 would also remain there. Councillor Dawes?
Yes, sorry. Yes, confirm, Mayor.
Okay. So Councillor Dawes put that forward. Councillor Tully, can I see if you're okay with that amendment? Okay. So the mover and the seconder have agreed to that amendment. So that is the live amendment that we are discussing today. Thank you very much, Councillor Dawes. Councillor Tully, do you wish to speak to the report?
Thank you, Mayor. I'll endeavour to be brief. This overall matter has a long history, and I just want to touch on the history of this. The original Trades Hall was created in Ipswich through an Act of the Queensland Parliament in 1925. That was the Ipswich Trades and Labour Hall Land Perpetual Lease Act. Subsequent to that, in 1986, there was another legislation by the Queensland Parliament, the Ipswich Trades Hall Act of 1986, which facilitated the redevelopment of the Trades Hall from Nicholas Street to Bell Street. That legislation created the current legal situation for the Trades Hall. The 1925 Act and the 1986 Act were parties of a different political persuasion, but it showed that the state government was prepared to ensure that an important facility in this city was able to go ahead, even with the redevelopment that was being proposed by the Kern Corporation. And that's what we're talking about today. Now, the interesting thing is, and I think it's quite relevant to today because we're talking about legal issues and moral issues. In 1986, and this is part of the now publicly released document, it's the Cabinet Minute of the Queensland Government on the 17th of June 1986, which actually approved the proposed legislation coming through. It was the Cabinet Minute was agreed to, and I'm reading from the copy of the original document by the Premier of Queensland, Sir Joh Bjelke-Petersen, and that decision of the Cabinet was to ensure that the bill and the proposal was progressed in accordance with paragraph 5 of the submission. Paragraph 5 of the submission was by Flower and Hart Solicitors acting on behalf of the Kern Corporation. Now, part of that submission, which the state government had agreed to in 1986, was paragraph 4C, which says, as part of the proposal, as I said, agreed to by the state government of the day, that they were to grant a 99-year lease or license to the Ipswich Trades Hall over 5 car parking bays upon completion of its retail development on the site bounded by Bell, Union, Nicholas and Bremer Streets. Now, as we know, there's been a change of ownership over the time. Since then, there's been the Commonwealth Hotel agreement which we entered into as a council, and that was facilitated by the acquisition of that site by Ipswich City Properties Proprietary Limited. And the advice that, and we have that situation now, and that's why this matter has gone on for a considerable piece of time. Now, it's certainly in what's been put forward publicly available, we believe that our position is very strong from a legal point of view, that those rights, because of the leasing or licensing arrangement, those rights which were guaranteed by the state government of the day in its initial approval have been extinguished. Now, legal rights usually have another side to them and another party, and we are aware that the Ipswich Trades Hall Committee takes a different view about their rights. We're talking about a mixture of moral rights and legal rights. I have no doubt that the moral right for that arrangement to continue following that cabinet decision 40 years ago in 1986 is something that this council cannot and should not ignore. On the other hand, even if we approved this without the amendment proposed by Councillor Doyle, that issue could linger on about rights and whether they're permanent rights or whether they're at the will of the council. Now, that amendment proposed by Councillor Doyle, I think, is quite significant. It talks about the agreement would be with the Trades Hall and Labor Day Committee. The agreement would be subject to an agreement by them about a release and indemnity of all legal claims. Now, the effect of that is that if we can provide those 5 car parking spaces with the release and indemnity, that would put to an end, even if our position is right, even if it's doubtful, even if our position we believe is stronger than the Trades Hall's legal views, it would put to an end an ongoing legal situation between the two parties, which has lingered, in my view, for far too long. And that amendment, I believe, should change the character of the discussion today compared with the discussion we had at last week's committee meeting. I thank actually Councillor Doyle, and I've already said this to her, that's an amendment which to me is very, very significant because without that amendment, as I said, a legal dispute could linger on. If it's agreed to, it would have to be agreed to ensure that the 5 spaces are available subject to that caveat. And as I say, I believe it's quite significant, but it does give effect to the original intention of the government back in 1986. And without going into the other details about it, who's right, who's wrong, who would win a court case, it puts that to a position, if this is agreed to today, it would ensure that this matter could be resolved forever without any cost to the Ipswich community. Legal costs that I'm talking about, if it ever went to a court. It may or may not go to a court, but I'm thankful to Councillor Doyle for her suggestion, which from my point of view entirely changes the character and of the decision, that it's the resolution of a legal matter rather than necessarily relying on cabinet decision and other licences which were granted by the Kern Corporation. So I'd urge councillors to support this motion, including that amendment which has already been agreed to, because it will put to an end a very difficult situation over the past few years.
Thank you. Councillor Doyle, as the seconder, do you wish to speak?
Thank you, Mayor. I actually had a couple of questions. I don't think we've moved to questions of council officers. I think I have one potentially for the CEO, and the second one would be legal, so potentially our general counsel.
Thank you. Yes, I have some questions as well, so I'll let you ask the CEO first.
Thank you, Mayor. So first question for the CEO. CEO, the report states that the CEO is not empowered by delegation or authorisation to enter an ongoing and permanent arrangement with Ipswich Trades Hall because the Ipswich Trades Hall request doesn't align with and therefore cannot be dealt with under council's grant, sponsorship and community assistance policy frameworks. And because Ipswich Trades Hall are seeking to be furnished with car parking at nil cost, entering into an ongoing arrangement with Ipswich Trades Hall in the absence of policy support and any commercial benefit to council would effectively create a new policy position. Given this, CEO, can you please provide some advice? Can this council today lawfully and in accordance with the provisions of the local government legislation approve or support the recommendation as the way forward?
Through the chair, my advice to the council is that the council can make that decision. The council, provided that there is no unlawfulness, there's no conflict with any other legal instrument, legislation, the council can make such a decision today, in my opinion.
Thank you, CEO. And I just note that during previous discussion with the Ipswich Trades Hall, you verbally sort of discussed with them the potential of a solution being that council might provide some car spaces to Ipswich Trades Hall within the Nicholas Street car park. Can you just walk me through how you got comfortable with that position? Was it just a negotiated outcome to resolve a dispute, or was there something else at play?
Thank you. Through the chair, the latter, Councillor Doyle, as the council has noted, there has been many meetings and discussions with officers over many years and with elected representatives in years gone by. So effectively since 2019, 2020, prior to my time with council and through my time, it came to a point where I had to have these discussions with representatives of the Trades Hall. And so the offer that I made after all of the effort that had been invested was to be effectively equivalent to an ex gratia payment, a benefit that is not required by legislation. So as the CEO, I do have the ability to make ex gratia payments where there is no legal obligation or right to the party, but where it is in the interests, whether it's a cost-benefit consideration or moral or some other relevant consideration, I do have the delegation to do that. So that was the offer that I did make for 2 car parking spaces in the Nicholas Street Precinct car park on effectively a licence or permit basis, able to be withdrawn at any time and subject to convenience. That was the offer that I made.
Okay, thank you, CEO. And I just note that, yes, you have spent countless hours and resources on this matter. So thank you always for your trusted advice. My second question is of a legal nature, and maybe you can respond, CEO. Just wondering what this, if it's approved today, what does the agreement look like with Trades Hall? Is it a licence? Is it a permit? And importantly, can we include a release and indemnity as part of that document?
Thank you. Through the chair, if I take the second part of the question, absolutely. If council decides that there is to be a what we usually call a deed of settlement and release, or release and indemnity, as has been put forward, that's certainly able to be easily given effect. In relation to whether it's a licence or permit, the advice that I've been given to date would be that it would be more of the permit arrangement. But given that there are, if council does make a resolution with the conditions that have been put forward in the amended recommendation today, then I would need to take that away and just ensure that we had the proper legal form around such an agreement. I'm happy to have either our General Manager, Corporate Services, or someone from our legal services come forward if necessary. But if you're satisfied with that, I won't. But through the chair, I'll leave it with the council and Councillor Doyle. Yeah.
Thank you, CEO. I'm satisfied with that response. Thank you, Mayor. That's all of my questions.
Thank you. I was going to ask if I could have some legal support for Lecton.
Do you mind indicating the nature of your questions?
Yeah, sure. My first question will be about the cabinet minutes discussed. I'd like to ask if that cabinet minute is in effect now and why it is or isn't. And so we can go through that because that was raised by the mover. And I'm also going to ask if the Ipswich Trades Hall has provided any legal evidence or rights to their position. Unless yourself you'd like to answer.
Through the chair. Would Matt, would Chandima be comfortable coming forward?
Thank you. I understand our General Counsel's unwell today.
She is, yeah, she's on
Thank
leave.
you. Thank you for...
I can perhaps just, while Chandima is coming up and will introduce herself, I'll just, Mayor, if it's okay with you, through you as the chair, I can answer the second part of the question comfortably, or the second question.
So that was, have Ipswich Trades Hall provided any legal evidence or rights to their position?
So to the best of my knowledge and recollection and records, so I'm happy to be corrected if not the case, but I've never been in discussions furnished with an actual copy of any evidence or advice from the Ipswich Trades Hall. In my meetings with the representatives of the Trades Hall, there has been reference to a cabinet decision, and I believe that was held by the representatives but it wasn't passed across the table to me. So we have sourced the cabinet minute through our own searches. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. I'll let you introduce yourself and your position. Yep, yes, please bring the...
Yeah, thank you. My name is Chandima Arthur, Senior Solicitor.
Thank you. I'd like to... The mover talked about the cabinet minute, which is obviously where this started from. I'd like to know if that the cabinet minute is in effect now, and which obviously it isn't, but why did that change?
Because I think the cabinet minutes, I think, then later passed on to legislation. So even though, yes, the car parking was introduced in the minutes, when it passed on to legislation, that has not been carried forward. The legislation only talks about land exchange. It doesn't explicitly talk about the car parking arrangement. So this was a later arrangement between Kern Corporation and ITH. So that's that license agreement, which the full copy we haven't seen, which we've been given an extract of. So that's the answer to that question.
And what happened? So it went to Kern, and what happened after Kern?
When the land, you mean the license agreement?
Yes, I think it's good to show the entire what's happened the last 40 years. I guess went from a cabinet not being legislated to an arrangement with Kern, and then Memo and
yes,
ICP,
and then the license agreement. So then the land exchange, the land went from Kern to Memo Corporation. So from there's no evidence that this license agreement carried forward, or it was transferred, novated. It didn't go with the land, and it's evident in the correspondence that memo clearly says that agreement that you had to ITH, they're saying the agreement you had with Kern Corporation is null and void now. So it ended at that point. So if that agreement ended there, then it can't continue later from memo to council.
okay.
Yeah.
And did Memo have any arrangements with the Trades Hall on parking?
That's, again, evidence from the correspondence that we have received as attached to that report. There has been informal arrangements for car parking. Yeah.
And what about when it moved from Memo to Ipswich City Properties?
Again, from the correspondence that we see from the council officers dating back to that time, 2012, circa, again, it has been on an informal basis that the ICP has provided those car parking arrangements to ITH.
Thank you. So legally, would it be correct to say that Ipswich City Council has never removed or taken anything from the Trades Hall?
Yes, that's my understanding.
Yeah. Okay, thank you. I'll open it for other questions. I think Councillor Augustine has her microphone on.
Hello. I just want to no solicitor or lawyer, but I just want to, can you please clarify for me, does the law recognise an implied licence, so something that's there for a continuous period of time?
Yes, again, but it will be through conduct. But throughout all these conduct and correspondence between the parties, it's been evident that it's not a given right. It's on a very informal, discretionary, can be revoked at any time. So that's the theme of this correspondence between...
When we talk about conduct, you're talking about correspondence. What I'm trying to clarify is conduct by, over time, the conduct of Trades Hall was that they were parking cars there. So the implied licence over time, I'm not talking about the correspondence side of things, I'm talking about the conduct of Trades Hall. Over time, there's been an implied licence that they were allowed to park there over a 40-year.
Yeah, but it was always on the understanding that this is not a permanent given right. It's always been on the understanding. Yes, we will allow you to park. Always, I'll rephrase that. It's always been said that, ITH, you do not have any right to park here, but we will allow you on a discretionary basis and it can be revoked at any time. So that's the basis that they have always been parking there. And ITH has over time acknowledged that as well, with memo, with ICP. And that's that's the understanding that I have from reading the report and the correspondence, that it's been on that basis that they have parked there. Yes,
So there's been an understanding over a period of time then.
that it's not, yeah.
Mayor, through the chair, if I could, I just perhaps respond differently. I agree with Chandima's advice, but I guess had there been no correspondence and no caveats, and had it just been that they were allowed to park there without any caveats and correspondence exchange around it, that would have been, in my opinion, a different matter, where there was a court would say, well, this has happened for this period of time and you've never said it's not appropriate, or you've never said it can be removed at any time. I think that would be a different matter, but that's not the case here.
Not the case here.
Thank you. Any other questions? Councillor Tilly?
Yes, I have a series of questions, if I may. And just in light of that, at what time was Ipswich Trades Hall informed that they no longer had access to the car? And for what reason? Do we know?
I'll take that. I think Chandima know more of the history on this matter. So through the chair, it would have been, I wouldn't have a specific date, but it was in the discussions that were being held between officers dating back around 2020, circa 2020 and 2021, when advice was sought and it was established and confirmed that there was no legal basis. So that advice was provided to representatives of the trades hall that officers were meeting with at the time.
So they were informed at that time that they had no longer any access to the car park. Is that correct?
That's my understanding through the chair.
Was that a matter that was discussed by council, as in the elected body?
Sorry, what was the question?
Is that a matter that was discussed by the council, as in the elected body, or was that an officer decision?
No, I didn't. To my knowledge, didn't come to the council. I joined council in early February 2020, but to the best of my knowledge, there was no council decision on the matter or an interim administrator decision on the matter. Rather, as I understand it, there was interactions, as there was over time, as evidenced in the correspondence with the relevant divisional councillors. So Councillor Doyle will be able to speak to that, and Councillor Madsen, who's obviously not present, also had some involvement. So it was more through consultation with the divisional councillors. Councillor Doyle was the chair of the Ipswich Central Redevelopment Committee, so officers were liaising with Councillor Doyle, and I believe that she had some interactions with representatives of the Ipswich Trades Hall as well. I might just make a quick check here of a note. Yeah, the only council decision reference was when a report came through the relevant standing committee into council to agree and approve that the arrangement be entered into with the with Merdhow for the access to the car parking spaces in the Bell Street Green. So at that point, there was a council decision to make that area through an agreement with the Commonwealth Hotel lessee.
So just to clarify, when the officers, whoever the officers were at the time, made the decision to cease access to the Ipswich Trades Hall, was there an elected council in existence at that time, or was it still, was it prior to the 2020 election?
I think I'd have to take that on notice to check the timing, if there's precise timing required.
Well, not so much precise timing, but I guess my follow-up question would be, do you not think, owing to the long-standing arrangement with Ipswich Trades Hall, that matter should have been discussed with the elected body at the time. We're now in this uncomfortable position of having to discuss this matter. In hindsight, do you not think that that might have been of that question?
Obviously, it wasn't considered necessary, that a claim to which there was no legal basis, no evidence of any obligation, and as the history shows, it never came to the elected council for a decision at any time prior, Councillor.
May not have come before the elected body for a formal decision, but it was well known and discussed with the elected councillors.
Are there any?
Clarify what that means, like well known, like at what time?
Yeah, because I didn't know at that time. I didn't know.
And if it didn't come to council, some councillors may have been aware or it might have been discussed later. But yeah, I'm not sure.
My advice has always been come to council because, yeah, for a decision, which it is today. Any other questions? Councillor, you got your green light on?
It pretty much answered all my questions. Thank you.
Okay. Any other questions? Thank you, Shanima. Appreciate you coming, and thank you for filling in at such short notice.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. I know that the move and the secretary have spoken. I'll open up to the floor for other councillors to speak.
Through you, Chair. Mayor, I haven't spoken. I asked questions, but I do want to speak to the matter.
Yes. Yes, Deputy Councillor Doyle. Do you wish to speak to the matter?
Thanks, Mayor. I will be supporting the recommendation today to agree to offering up the 5 or up to 5 car spaces located in the Nicholas Street Precinct car park to Ipswich Trades Hall on an informal, non-perpetual basis. This disagreement or dispute, however you want to characterise it, has been discussed and debated for several years and made more difficult by historical arrangements and correspondence, legislation. I'm not going to re-prosecute the arguments for or against all the legal advice and position put forward by council officers. The advice from council's legal team is very thorough and comprehensive. I absolutely acknowledge that and grateful for their continued advice and counsel throughout this entire matter. However, I've long held a view that given the long-standing historical arrangements that have been in place between Ipswich Trades Hall and the various owners of the adjoining land and car park, of which council is now the current owner, that obviously led to that expectation by the various Trades Hall committees over the years that those arrangements would somehow continue indefinitely. For a variety of commercial reasons, which I will speak to shortly, that was simply not a long-term arrangement that council could continue with. Our first priority must be to the ratepayers of Ipswich. We own the assets on their behalf and we're obliged by law to make decisions in their best interests. However, I'm satisfied that a negotiated position outcome to put an end to this dispute, however it's characterised once and for all, is a fair and reasonable outcome. Council has to date spent countless hours and resources investigating, reviewing and advising on this issue. And I don't believe that it's a good use of council resources, ratepayer monies being spent on this matter or any potential future legal disputes into the future. I see this as a sensible and prudent measure to put this matter to bed once and for all and protect council from any future or ongoing legal disputes. The extent of council's commitment, should the recommendation be supported today, is simply to provide a limited number of car spaces for use by the Ipswich Trades Hall as needed and can end at Council's discretion. There has been a concern raised that this may create a precedent or expectation within the community for other third-party organisations to seek out a like arrangement. I believe there is adequate history and a pattern of use in relation to the Trades Hall to argue that this is a unique set of circumstances or arrangement so as to not set a precedent and to not be characterised as favouring one particular community group or organisation. I want to now address a number of matters, issues discussed on the floor today and raised in more recently during committee, because I think it is really important we're clear, factual and grounded in good governance. Firstly, I reject the notion that Council should somehow have entered into an agreement with the Trades Hall in the previous term of Council. Note that Councillor Antonelli has actually alluded to that today. That proposition oversimplifies what is in fact a complex commercial and governance matter. To mischaracterise this matter as some kind of moral obligation is simply a nonsense. We are talking about public assets worth tens of millions of dollars. To compare this to giving free space to a community group is entirely misleading and fails to recognise the seriousness of our obligations as elected members. We are not talking about a parcel of surplus green space, a community hall or some other asset that council holds indefinitely and could therefore make some bespoke long-term exclusive use arrangement over for a community group. We are talking about significant commercial assets, an asset worth tens of millions of dollars that is intended to one day be divested or potentially redeveloped into the future. This asset has been earmarked and known as the Bell Street Green in master plans for future development opportunities, including a hotel. To argue otherwise is disingenuous. The relevant documents and long-term strategic vision for the Bell Street Green have been made available to all councillors in the portal. As we have seen, legal advice given as part of this report, the use of the car park and the rights to it are currently the subject of a lease in favour of our tenant operating the Commonwealth Hotel. To have carved out a portion of that land and dedicate it under a long-term arrangement with the Ipswich Trades Hall would have materially impact council's options when negotiating with the tenant for the Commonwealth Hotel, as well as any future options if the land is one day divested. It would have limited development opportunity, devalued the asset and compromise council's future prospects of divesting. In the property development industry and indeed the property finance world, car spaces are assigned a value per space for valuation purposes. To give away indefinitely a number of car spaces behind the Commonwealth Hotel would have reduced the value and commercial leverage as a landlord and any future valuation. As custodians, as a board of directors of ratepayers' assets, that would have been a poor financial decision and one inconsistent with our duty to act in the best interests of the residents we represent, despite how difficult that decision may have been, despite whether or not it went against our own personal ideological beliefs. There was no legal obligation on council in the previous term, nor during administration, to enter into a formal agreement. The same reasons such an agreement was not made with the Trades Hall prior to administration by that council. There was no legal obligation and it would have significantly limited or diminished the worth of the asset and the options for future development. It was not prudent from a legal, financial or governance perspective. Finally, I want to be very clear. This matter hasn't come before us now, as has been suggested during committee and today, because of any fault or wrongdoing by council officers or councillors. A complete nonsense to suggest there was any obligation on council to continue to drive and re-prosecute this issue. As chair, I oversaw every aspect of the redevelopment to ensure we made the right decisions for ratepayers in relation to these assets. Those decisions were deliberate and informed, underpinned by strategy, long-term vision and planning, and technical advice from industry experts, property legal and financial advice. It has come before us now because there is now an energetic, competent and highly motivated committee at the helm of the Trades Hall, who I commend for breathing life back into the Trades Hall, for undertaking the strategic visioning and planning required, securing grants and for improving the financial sustainability of the Trades Hall and giving the Trades Hall a long-term future in our community. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor. Very well said. I'll open it for any other discussion. Is that? I'd like to thank Councillor Doyle for her amendment and also for the mover to accept that. And I also thank Councillor Doyle's incisive and insightful commentary on this as someone who was the chair of that committee last term. For my view, when I look back at the dismissal of the previous council in 2018, it's hard to imagine how a council could find themselves in this situation. However, after listening to Councillor Antonelli's argument last week in the Finance and Governance Committee in support of offering free car parking to the Ipswich Trades Hall and the Labor Day Committee, certainly provides some insights for me. Council officers clearly demonstrated that there has never been a legal or contractual obligation for council to provide free car parking to the Ipswich Trades Hall Committee. And by Councillor Antonelli's own admission, this special arrangement with the Trades Hall had always been informal and one that was never actually resolved or documented by council. Despite all this, Councillor Antonelli urged us not to take the legal position here. He argued that we owed it to the Trades Hall to rectify this situation, to consider the loss to the Ipswich Trades Hall. What I find most interesting is that while Councillor Antonelli raised many points on behalf of the position of the Ipswich Trades Hall, he had very little to say on behalf of the ratepayers of Ipswich. The ratepayers of Ipswich who had been unknowingly providing free car parking to the Trades Hall for years, despite there being no council resolution or contractual or legal obligation to do so. I would have hoped that we had all learnt something from the events of 2018, and in particular, Operation Windage, the CCC's investigation into culture and corruption risk at Ipswich City Council. It was noted in the CCC's Operation Windage report, and I quote, "Policies are intended to guide the application and expenditure of ratepayers' funds in a way that is accountable and in the best interests of the community. During Operation Windage, it was identified that council policies and procedures were either not followed, ignored, or circumvented, including by councillors and senior executive employees, resulting in the misuse of council funds and assets. The range of activities to which this applied included HR policies and decisions, community donations, travel, vehicle use, and asset management. In many cases, the behaviour continued over a significant period of time, but went unchallenged and unreported." And that's the end of that quote. The long-standing and undocumented informal arrangement between Ipswich City Council and the Trades Hall was neither accountable nor in the best interests of the community we are supposed to represent. Our officers have made it clear that formalising this arrangement today would create a position that does not align with our current policies and funding guidelines, nor deliver any commercial benefit to council or our ratepayers. Councillor Antonelli suggested, and I quote, "If we were to look back, we could have handled this situation better," unquote, and that is certainly true of previous councils who allowed this special deal with the Ipswich Trades Hall to transpire and then allowed it to continue for years without any transparency or accountability. Council's role here is not to represent the interests of the Ipswich Trades Hall and Labor Day Committee, it is to represent the interests of the Ipswich community as a whole. And I thank Councillor Doyle and Tully for the improved recommendations, but I'll be voting against the recommendation before us today. I'll ask for other comment. I didn't see who went first. Councillor Tully.
Right. Yeah. Thank you, Mayor. Look, I'd like to thank Councillor Tully and Councillor Doyle for their measured comments. However, I do disagree with Councillor Doyle on her somewhat defensive comments, which have completely misrepresented my comments and concerns, and also my concessions with regard to the Commonwealth Hotel lease upon the car park. Further to you, Mayor, your attack, again, has misrepresented my position. Much has been discussed and said in recent meetings, particularly in last week's committee, regarding this matter. And much of it seems to centre on the ownership rather than the actual material use of the building. Yes, it is the Ipswich Trades Hall, but it is primarily a commercial building with commercial tenants and commercial tenancy, something that has yet to be mentioned this morning. Its ownership should not be the matter of concern or debate. We heard earlier that the Trades Hall exists in its present location as a result of inner city development that occurred in the early to mid-80s, primarily undertaken by the Kern Corporation. That this development essentially led to the demolition and loss of the original Trades Hall. I'm told it was a majestic building. Hence why there are considerable cabinet documents relating to the construction of the new Trades Hall and the necessary provision of parking to support its operations and viability. And yes, I stress viability. If the agreement instituted through State Cabinet and signed by both the Kern Corporation and the Ipswich Trades and Labor Day Committee continued to this day, there would still be some 60 years remaining on that peppercorn lease. Now, anyone who has frequently attended Ipswich Central for the past 30 years or more would have been under the impression that the car park adjacent to the Bell Street roundabout, the car park in question, was in fact the Ipswich Trades Hall car park, let alone the agreed small number of parking spaces. Indeed, at night and on weekends, this car park was often filled with people attending the Ipswich Trades Hall for a variety of functions, meetings or events. Everyone referred to it as the Ipswich Trades Hall car park, so there can be no denying the connection between the two, let alone the benefit that it provided Ipswich Trades Hall. However, since construction, the Kern owned Ipswich City Square has since passed through two new owners, one being Mimo Corp and the other being this very council, the present owners of the area that is now in question. And whilst neither of these new owners have been legally obliged to honour the original agreement, they at least did continue to honour, although informally, Ipswich Trades Hall's access to a number of parking spaces. There is documented evidence that Mimo Corp and this council honoured this agreement. Indeed, in my time as councillor and mayor, I was more than happy to see that arrangement honoured and had numerous discussions with the late Brian Hall, who had many positions with and wore many hats with respect to the Trades Hall, to that effect, to that particular effect. However, such agreement was always with the understanding that at some time in the future, there would need to be discussions about this access owing to the valuable nature of the site for future development, as Councillor Doyle has alluded. Now, I understand that we have received advice from our city solicitor that council was not legally obligated to honour these past agreements. I'm sure that may be the case. However, I take issue with such statements because we are a council. And if we are not at least considerate of the community we represent, then we are failing in our core duty. The term obligated and honour are at the core here. In fact, both of these words speak to and with regards to integrity. We might not have been legally obligated, and this is where I clearly differ with Councillor Doyle, but I'm deeply saddened and disappointed that our council did not see the moral obligation behind speaking to the Ipswich Trades Hall before progressing any discussions with the prospective lease. Even if there was no regard to the Ipswich Trades Hall and Labor Day Committee, there should have been concern in the very least for the tenants, one being a not-for-profit community youth service who do wonderful work in our local community and our local schools, and the other being a mum and dad business. There should have been a concern for the pressure that such a decision could or would make on the potential commercial viability of these tenants and the Trades Hall. The possibility that such outcome may inadvertently create an untenable squeeze on the Ipswich Trades Hall and its operations and, as I said before, tenants. I previously said in a committee meeting last week that the failure to undertake these discussions has left this council with an uncomfortable decision to make here today. And I repeat that. In fact, in and of itself, it is an uncomfortable truth. Denying that is to deny our moral duty and obligation to faithfully serve and represent our community. Excuse me one moment. I repeat that. Denying that is to deny our moral duty and obligation to faithfully serve and represent our community, be they residents, business owners, community groups, or not-for-profits. The other very disturbing element in all of this, regardless of today's decision, is the fact that the council, or more importantly, whoever took this action on behalf of council, was acting as the developer in this instance and failed to see the conflict of interest.
Councillor Antonio, that's been your 5 minutes. Do you wish to have a time extension? How many more minutes would you like?
Not long, Mayor.
1 or 2 minutes?
1 minute should do.
Thank you.
I go back. That council, more importantly, who undertook this action on behalf of the council, was acting as the developer in this instance and failed to see the conflict of interest council had in this matter. More importantly, failed to take the third-person objective assessment of how this would look to an outsider. The argument that this sets is a precedent, is largely incorrect from the perspective that it is highly unlikely that any such situation like this will ever arise again. However, the manner in which this matter has been viewed, primarily from a legal context, instead of the moral and community-minded decision to act consultatively, has set a very dangerous precedent, one that I would hope would not be repeated. We are therefore obligated to find a solution, and to work with the Trades Hall towards that solution. I'll therefore be supporting the recommendation.
Thank you, Councillor Dee. I open it for other. I think Councillor Augustine, you've been waiting for some time.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you. So we can all agree this is not a new request. It is not a special favour. It is a continuation of a long-standing community practice that date back nearly 40 years. And today I will outline why I support maintaining this agreement. In 1986, Trades Hall received approval to use Bell Street car park. That approval was not a one-off gesture. It became the foundation of a practice that has continued for almost 4 decades. When a public authority adopts a consistent approach over many years, the affected community group develops what is known as a legitimate expectation. Ipswich Trades Hall has this expectation. For nearly 40 years, the council has allowed the use of Bell Street car park for the Ipswich Trades Hall Committee. The committee has relied on this practice to plan events, manage logistics, and ensure accessibility to the community. A legitimate expectation doesn't freeze council policy forever, but it does require that any change be made fairly, transparently, and with proper justification. Abruptly withdrawing a long-standing agreement without consultation, well, it falls short of that standard. Even though the original approval was changed over time, the council's repeated, consistent permission over decades has created what is called, in my term, an implied licence. That implied licence arises not from a single statement, but from a conduct from both parties over a period of time. And the council has allowed this to go on for 35 years. Trades Hall has relied on it. The community has come to expect it. This is exactly the kind of situation when an implied licence is recognised and respected. Local governments are required to act with procedural fairness and consistency. When a council has supported a community practice for decades, it cannot simply reverse the cause without consulting the affected group, providing clear reasons, considering the impact on the community, ensuring the decision is not arbitrary or inconsistent with past practices. Continuing the car park arrangement is not only fair, it is consistent with council's own history and with the expectation it has created. There is no legislation or policy that prohibits the council from continuing to allocate car parks to the Trades Hall. Modern day policies and procedures may be more formal than they were in 1986, but they do not invalidate long-standing community arrangements. If anything, they provide a framework to formalise what has already worked successfully for 40 years. For all those reasons, the original approval, the decades of consistent practice, the principles of legitimate expectation and implied license, the requirements of administrative fairness and the clear public benefit, the continued allocations of car parking for the Ipswich Trades Hall Committee is not only reasonable but firmly grounded in law and good governance. This is an opportunity for Council to honour its history, support its community and uphold the principles that guide fair public administration. That is why I'll be supporting this motion today. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Deputy Mayor.
Very quickly, and thank you, Councillor Augustine, that was really well said. Notwithstanding the absence of any legal obligation, Council may lawfully continue to provide parking to this entity, informed by the historical context of the arrangement and considerations of fairness and reasonableness. The provision of parking would be expressly conditional, revocable at Council's discretion, and would not give rise to any present or future legal right or entitlement. I think we need to finalise this matter now, and the proposed recommendation is the best way forward, in my opinion. Fear of creating a precedent from this decision, again, in my opinion, is nil given the uniqueness of the matter. Thank you.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Councillor Martin.
I'd just like to concur with what's been spoken today, Mayor. Thank Councillor Doyle for her amendments. Pursuant to Councillor Johnnick, I was chairperson of Ipswich Community Youth Service when they entered into arrangement with Trades Hall for renting the premise, and car parking was brought up, and there was absolutely no indication that there was free car parking, that they, like any other tenant in the mall, would have to provide their own car parking space, get there early, park potential council car parks, or they would have to walk or pay like many other traders in the CBD. So I'd just like to concur that I don't believe it sets a precedent, and ICYS was a recent tenant of the Trades Hall. They're still there on the bottom floor, and that's never been an issue. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Martin. I'll just check. Councillor Martin, do you wish to speak to the matter? The only one who hasn't.
Mayor, I spoke previously at the committee hearing, and I seconded the recommendation for the recommendation that is in the report that has been amended. I'd just like to thank Councillor Tully and Councillor Doyle for the amendments. I think the amendments are suitable. I guess the only thing I'd like to repeat from what I said in the committee hearing was there's a long paper trail of correspondence between council or, Ipswich City Square management with Trades Hall acknowledging there were parking spaces. And if this was to go to court, I think Trades Hall would be relying on that correspondence. That's all I wanted to say.
Thank you. In that case, I'll hand over, everyone has spoken, so I'll hand over to Councillor Tully for a right of reply, and then we'll go straight to the vote.
Thank you, Mayor. I won't go through or summarise, as I usually do, what people have put forward, but I think it's fair to say it's a very vexed question. There are even people have indicated who'd be voting for this motion have got different views from others. It's one of those issues where, yes, it does go back 40 years, and yes, that Cabinet decision of 1986 for a 99-year lease or licence was actually given effect to by the Kern Corporation. They acted in accordance with the Cabinet decision, even though it wasn't in the legislation. Whether or not that was passed on when the Memo Corporation bought the property, I don't know. Whether it did or didn't at some stage when it came to Ipswich City Properties, Proprietary Limited, before coming to Ipswich City Council, as our legal advisor indicates, that licence was never extended or incorporated in any of those subsequent transactions. Now, whether that's right, wrong, or how that really occurred is probably mostly irrelevant today. But Councillor Augustine, in her question, raised the issue of an implied licence by conduct, and that's been referred to. The real issue, and Councillor Doyle mentioned the commercial benefit. There is a commercial benefit to the council by approving this, because of that amendment from Councillor Doyle, the commercial benefit, if agreed to in that a recommendation by the Trades Hall Committee, is that it would put to an end about close to 4 decades of uncertainty and legal rights which have been raised. As I said in my earlier comments at the start, even though our legal advice, and this is not revealing anything confidential, is strong that the actual technical legal right may have been extinguished, that doesn't prevent the other party from raising that by conduct in relation to any legal proceedings, which may or may not occur. That won't occur if this recommendation is agreed to. It will put an end to that particular matter, and it will ensure that if agreed to by the Trades Hall and Labor Day Committee, that would be the end of any possible legal action. But it would also restore what has been said by speakers as over 40 years, a right or an understanding that successive councils, I guess, and councillors and members of the Trades Hall Committee understood and agreed to, even if that might not have been a legal right which they had. So I would urge councillors to support this. It's open and accountable. This is not some secret deal that's being entered into. This is on the record of why we would be entering to this arrangement. It is in the interests of the city. It does not create a precedent, as was mentioned, because of the unique circumstances of this arrangement. Very few developments start or are authorised by an Act of Parliament in this city. It's twice in relation to the Trades Hall, as I said, in 1925 and 1986. The only one other that I recall is the Springfield legislation of that same era, the later era, where there was legislation to ensure that there was a smooth development transition. So I'd urge councillors to support it, even if councillors sort of feel as though there are issues that normally, about an organisation getting something over and above that other organisations may not have. It's something that they've had for 40 years, and even though our legal rights are pretty well, our legal interpretation and advice is pretty clear, I would say you could never guarantee the outcome of a legal matter ever in a civil matter at all, but we can guarantee that there would be no litigation forever on this matter if this motion with the amendment by Councillor Doyle is agreed to.
Thank you. Put the matter to the vote. Those voting for? So it's everyone in the chambers except for myself. Councillor Doyle, how do you vote? I know you're the seconder. Agree?
Affirmative, Mayor.
I vote against.
Agreed.
So the motion has passed. Thank you very much for the discussion, and I'm really pleased that this has been an open and transparent decision. I'll call for Councillor Madsen to come back in so I can then do a vote on an adjournment. But I can't do the vote on the adjournment until he comes back in. Sorry? 30 minutes, yeah. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Councillor Madsen. It is now 10:18. I propose that we adjourn for 30 minutes, so we come back at 10:48. Those, may I have a seconder? Councillor Tully, I put that to the vote. Those in favour? It's unanimous in the chamber. Councillor Doyle, how do you vote?
Affirmative.
Thank you very much. See you back here. Thank you. Welcome back to the Ipswich City Council meeting for April 2026. It's 10:48. We've just had a 30-minute adjournment. So we're on to item 15.4, which is the report of the Community Sport Committee of the 21st of April. I think, Councillor Madsen, are you going to exclude item 5 or 6, or how would you like this report managed?
Thank you, Mayor. I'm going to move items 1, 2, 3, 4 and 7 with the exclusion of item 5 and 6 so they can be moved separately.
Do I have a seconder for that? Thank you, Councillor Doyle. I'll hand a... Oh, sorry, Councillor Augustine. My apologies. I had her on the mind because she's not here. Thank you, Councillor Augustine. I'll hand over to you, Councillor Madsen, to speak to the report.
Thank you, Mayor. Main thing I want to highlight was item 1, the response to a notice motion about sponsorship signage at council sporting facilities. I just want to commend the officers again on that. Main sort of point where I'm very happy with it is it'll give people the opportunity to acknowledge small businesses who support our local sporting clubs at council facilities, small businesses who are out there helping kids get active and play sport. I think that's great, and that should be celebrated in a sort of non-offensive way with some signage here or there as facilities permit. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Councillor Augustine is the seconder. Do you wish to speak to the report?
The same as Councillor Madsen, the signage I think is it's going to be a game changer for our sporting clubs. I mentioned in committee that sporting clubs really rely on 2 things: registrations, payments, and also sponsorship. So the signage at fields will then enable clubs to improve their professional image, which then helps attract members to their club. So yeah, very welcomed. Report.
Thank you. I'll open up for further discussion. There be no other further discussion. Any closing up notice? I'll put the matter to the vote. Those in favour, please raise your hand. It's unanimous and carried. Thank you. Councillor Madsen, do you wish to move item 5?
I'd like to allow Councillor Augustine to, as she's prepared an amendment.
Thank you. Councillor Augustine, item 5 is the report on the Multicultural Advisory Committee of the 23rd of March. How would you like that report managed?
Oh, thank you, Mayor. The recommendations A and B, B being the revised report, I'd like to move them, but I'd like to move an amendment to the actual officers' report, item 3, which is the external board working group. So I have supplied and also distributed the amendment. So item A will stay the same, but item B will is a little bit more robust. It's on the screen now, and it just talks about external advisors and participants. The Multicultural Advisory Committee may appoint up to 5 external advisors for a fixed term following an expression of interest process approved by council. External advisors are appointed to provide cultural, community or subject matter expertise and may participate fully in committee decisions at the invitation of the chairperson. External advisors are not members of the committee and do not form part of the quorum and do not vote on committee recommendations. Participation by external advisors is advisory in nature only and does not affect the committee's responsibility to formulate its advice and recommendations to the committee and the Community and Sports Committee. To allow the appointment of 5. Yeah, we've already said that. Yeah, so that's basically.
And then C?
And then on top of that, then we've got C will be added in, that the amended terms of reference be referred to the next Finance and Governance Committee for approval and adoption. And then C becomes D, that there's an expression of interest process.
So you're moving that?
Yes.
Do I have a seconder for that? Thank you, Councillor Madsen.
Can I seek a clarification, please?
Yep.
I imagine that with respect to the abbreviation TOR, that would be, or it will ultimately be in full. Thank you.
And I think instead of item 3, I think it's supposed to be item 5. Correct me if I'm wrong.
No, it's item 3 in the report. Item 3, which is the external of the officers' report.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
My apologies. Okay, is
Yes,
it item 15.4?
Yeah, item 3 within item 5, yeah,
Yep.
thanks.
Thank you. Are you happy with that clarification, Councillor Turley? Thank you very much. Councillor Augustine as the mover? Yes, Councillor Madsen said he'd second. As the mover, would you like to speak to the matter?
Oh, thank you, Mayor. Mayor, I think this is a way. It's new. This, as we've said, this is a new advisory committee. We're finding our way and how we go forward. And I think the report, the things that we've come to in this report by bringing in expert advisory members, I think is a good way forward. We in the committee we did talk about that we've spoken to myself and Mal Dower, did have a meeting with Toowoomba Regional Council and seen how their advisory committee has worked. And so, they're leading the way in this sort of matter. So it was good to see what they did so we can formulate in a similar matter with doing the priorities of Ipswich residents first and foremost, Mayor.
Thank you. Councillor Madsen as the seconder, do you wish to speak to the motion?
Yeah, I just concur with the chair of the advisory committee. We discussed this during the last advisory committee, and it appears good to try and mirror what our colleagues at Toowoomba have been successful doing. They've had a lot of success operating under this model, so I think it will be a good addition to how we do our business. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. I'm looking forward to the committee report coming forward because I think in discussions with Councillor Augustine, Toowoomba have got one councillor but 16 externals. I don't know if they've got voting rights or not, but I think Sunshine Coast have got a different setup. So I'm very keen to see in that committee paper what other councils are doing, what works well, what doesn't, what parameters, how we'll do the expression of interest and so on. Are they paid or unpaid? Do they vote? Do they not vote? And things like that. I'd be very interested to see and get some advice. Thank you. Open for any other discussion. Councillor Turley.
Yeah, I just want to commend Councillor Augustine for the way she's leading that committee and supported obviously by Councillor Madsen. The ability to co-opt members of the community on to an advisory committee is very worthwhile, and certainly I'll be supporting this.
Thank you. Any other discussion? Councillor Augustine, anything, right of reply? No one spoke against it. Would you like a right of reply? Thank you. I'll put that matter to the vote. Those in favour, please raise your hand. It's unanimous and carried. We're now looking at item, 6. I think the Sport and Rec Advisory Committee, as the chair of that, Councillor Madsen, how would you like that paper?
I'd like to move that with an amendment to recommendation B of item 4, George Alder Tennis Centre update. With the wording of that being, item B being updated to, sorry, it's just here, that council officers investigate option 1 as outlined in the confidential attachment to then be presented at a future committee, as is on the screen.
Thank you. Do I have a seconder for that? Thank you, Councillor Augustine. Councillor Madsen, do you wish to speak to the report?
Nothing other than to say that that amendment provides a bit extra clarity of how the advisory committees are functioning. We had some robust feedback last week, not all of which I agree with, but I'm more than happy for minutes of those meetings to improve in terms of the clarity that's offered in some of the reporting. So I've agreed to this amendment today to try and accommodate that. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Augustine, do you wish to speak to the report?
I know, okay, I'll just concur with Councillor Madsen. Thank you.
Thank you. I just want to thank Councillor Madsen at that committee report. You offered to provide with a briefing, which you did do on Tuesday morning, and I appreciate your willingness to reconsider amending this item, and I'll be very comfortable in supporting the adoption of these minutes. Thank you very much. I'll open up for any other discussion. Councillor Mazza, do you wish to have a right of reply? Go straight to the vote. I'll put the matter to the vote. Those in favour, please raise your hand. It's unanimous and carried. Thank you. We are now at item 15.5, the report of the Economic and Cultural Development Committee of the 21st of April 2026. Councillor Augustine is the chair of that committee. How would you like that report
Thank you,
managed?
Mayor. I'd like to move the Economic and Cultural Development Committee 2026-5 of 21st of April 2026 be received and adopted.
Thank you. Do I have a seconder for that? Thank you, Councillor Martin. Councillor Augustine, do you wish to speak to the...
Thank you, Mayor. Mayor, I just want to highlight again item 4, which is the Urban Precinct and Partnership Program. I want to commend the federal government for successfully securing $3.8 million for this project under the Stream 1 of what we know as the UPPP, to design and plan the Ipswich Central Heart Initiative. I said in the committee that I'd love to be able to go forward and have it all completed to see exactly what it'd look like. I'm very excited about what potentially could look like. And we had a bit of a snippet look at what potentially on the 28th of March when we had Leonard Brown's exhibition and also the Kinky Boots offering at the Civic Centre. And we had around about 1,500 people in the precinct that night, and the precinct was buzzing. So I really commend the officers' effort in bringing a really in-depth report to us. If you read through it, there's a lot of good stuff there to be able to see exactly what's coming in the space, and hopefully we can be successful in Stream 2 when we go forward. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Councillor Martin is the seconder. Do you wish to speak to the report?
No, thanks, Mayor. I'd just like to agree with Councillor Augustine. It's pretty exciting seeing the city come alive. Anzac Day was great too, just seeing crowds of people. Just love it. So good to see our city alive. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Antonelli.
Yes, thank you. I also I met with the officers the other day with regards to how the UPPP program is going to go forward. And next week there'll be the commencement of a large amount of consultation with varying groups and demographics within the CBD and inner city area. Very excited about what comes out of that. This is an amalgam of a number of projects all within the CBD. 5 projects. Thank you, Councillor Augustine. So it's not just one project. It really is something about the entire CBD. And obviously after the works associated with the Nicholas Street precinct, how we then coordinate the links into that precinct and out of that precinct for the benefit of the entire Ipswich Central area will be of great interest to me. And I have obviously a soft spot for the opportunities in the top of town precinct, and look forward to seeing that come to life. I don't think many people understand or appreciate that the Main Street top of town here in Ipswich is one of the best circa 1900 to 1920 main streets in Queensland. So that is significant of our history, our background, and of course some people might recall the old Lifeline Emporium that existed on the corner of West Street and Brisbane Street at the top of town. That before that, it actually started life as the State Butcher Shop. So a significant bit of the history is still contained in that area. So one of the things I would really like to see is how we embrace that that history going forward as part of this project, and I'll be sharing my thoughts with the group as to when that consultation commences. Thank you.
Any other comments? I guess I'll speak to 3 of the matters. One is the Urban Precincts and Partnership Program. The update shows that Ipswich Central Heart is progressing strongly with high stakeholder engagement. and it's already, with high stakeholder engagement already undertaken in the community consultation starting in May. Also note Capybara opened in the Nicholas Street precinct just in time for visitors coming to see Bluey and Bingo and grab a refreshing bubble tea. And there was an 81% increase in foot traffic for this year compared to the same time last year, which demonstrates how the Ipswich community continues to embrace the Nicholas Street precinct. In regards to the Advocacy Advisory Committee, which I chair in March, there were some key matters that were progressed. One of the major milestones we noted was the finalisation of the funding agreement with the Department of Transport and Main Roads for the Ipswich Central River Crossing. With the detailed business case now underway and a formal letter of support from DTMR, this long-awaited project is finally moving from aspiration to action. We continued our discussion on the Brisbane 2032 Team Attraction Brochure, which does remain a living document as new venues and new opportunities emerge. So I do encourage anyone in our community who sees an opportunity to let us know, to see if we can include that as part of our advocacy for our entire city. Stakeholder engagement since its release has been really positive, and we're now considering additional facilities, including the Criterium track at Raceview, to strengthen our offering ahead of the Brisbane 2032 Games. And finally, the committee noted the Queensland Redistribution Commission's proposed changes to the state electoral boundaries and the opportunity to provide formal objections as part of this process, which our council, I think Councillor Tully led that charge, putting a submission in on behalf of our community. That's all I have to say on that report. Anything else? No. Councillor Wilson, do you wish to say anything in reply, or straight to the vote?
No, just go straight to the vote.
Thank you. Put the matter to the vote. Those in favour, please raise your hand. It's unanimous and carried. Thank you. The next item is 15.6, the report of the Environment Sustainability Committee of the 21st of April 2026. Councillor Madden, as the chair of that committee, how would you like this report managed?
Mayor, I would move that the report of the Environment Sustainability Committee number 2026-03 of 21 April 2026 be received and adopted. And given so many amendments today, two motions, Mayor, I thought I'd just mention that I'm not proposing any amendments.
Are you wanting to second it, Councillor Chile? Thank you very much. Yes. Councillor Madden, please. I take it as a good thing that we get into the minutes and
Just thought I'd mention that.
Councillor Madden, I'll head over to you to speak to the report.
Mayor, there were two substantive officers' reports in the report that I've just moved be accepted. The first one was Let's Get It Sorted program, the completion of that program. This is a report concerning the Let's Get It Sorted program undertaking to improve curbside recycling through a range of behaviour change interventions. I should say we do have a problem about contamination with regard to the bins, and we've got a pretty poor scorecard, Ipswich, so I think this will be ongoing. A range of different interventions were implemented through a citywide program in selected suburbs and through multiple dwellings trials. The program resulted in measurable increases in awareness, so we got a good result. Measurable increases in awareness of diversion services at the resource recovery centres at Rosewood and Riverview, and a reduction in recycling contamination and participating multi-unit dwellings, Mayor. And the recommendation was that the council notes the completion of the Let's Get It Sorted program activities, including the positive outcomes from the behaviour change interventions applied. Mayor, the other report was the Environment and Sustainability Department Capital Delivery Report, January to March 2026. This is a report concerning the performance of the Capital Delivery Program by the Environment and Sustainability Department from January to March 2026, and the recommendation was that the report on capital delivery by the Environment and Sustainability Department from January to March 2026 be received and noted. But Mayor, I thought it might be worthwhile to mention some of those items in the capital delivery program. One was the construction of a new back-of-house facility at the Ipswich, very popular Ipswich Nature Centre. Obviously, with all these animals, food and has to be prepared, and a range of other activities, if only changing clothes at the end of the shift to better clothing. The other one was at Goodna, the SCS Goodna Gate upgrade. One other was major, reconstruction works at the Riverview transfer station. There was a problem with one of the side walls of the big pit, and those were the items listed in the report, Mayor.
Councillor Madden. Councillor Genelli, do you wish to speak? No. I just want to mention a couple of things. And again, I'll touch on the Let's Get It Sorted campaign, which was delivered with the Queensland Government support to improve curbside recycling. And Ipswich generated more than 135,000 tonnes of waste last year, with only 27% recovered, which is a clear reminder of why improving recycling habits really do matter. The program combined a citywide education on the 3-bin system, the targeted bin tagging in selected suburbs, and a recycling trial in unit and apartment complexes. And these interventions led to an increased awareness of resource recovery centre services and the measurable reductions in recycling contamination, particularly in the MUDs, the multi-unit dwellings. And by helping residents understand what goes where, this program is making recycling easier and helping our community to take simple steps to make a real difference. Any other councillor?
Sorry, Mayor. Thank you, Mayor. Yes, the Let's Get It Sorted program I'd like to comment on. I want to commend the team. They went and for their engagement. I visited them when they were down at Redbank Plains Town Square, really trying to engage with our community. So it's good to see that most suburbs had a reduction in contamination rates, but I'd like to see probably a little bit more now, because it's we're out there, we're trying to get our contamination rates down. When it's bin day and you drive through the streets, I feel like I need a sticker to stick on the ones that I can see that they're contaminated. I'm not going to do that, but I just feel like it. I'm just saying. So thank you very much to it was a big program. So there was a lot of staff involved. So thank you very much for everyone's input.
Thank you. Councillor Tully.
Just wanted to clarify that the Goodna SES is in Redbank Plains now, and the Goodna Gate is the Redbank Plains Gate. But I still proudly say it's all still part of Greater Goodna.
Any other comments? I'll go to Councillor Madden for the right of reply.
The only reply I'd like to say, Mayor, is to thank the council staff that enthusiastically participated in Let's Get It Sorted and preparing these 2 reports for the council meeting today.
They certainly did. Thank you. I'll put the matter to the vote. Those in favour, please raise your hand. It's unanimous and carried. Thank you. We are now on to officers' reports. And that first one is 16.1, the CEO's Organisational Performance Report for March. I will move that. Do I have a seconder for that? Thank you, Councillor Augustine. In speaking to that, I saw over the weekend we saw hundreds of people attend the dawn service and the Anzac Day commemorations at the Ipswich Soldiers Memorial Hall. And that turnout really underscored how important this building remains to our community and our veterans who gather there for the services throughout the year. Ipswich City Council was able to secure a substantial share of the first round of funding with a $228,000 grant from the Queensland Government's Honouring Our Veterans Grants program, reflecting the strength of our advocacy and the very need to undertake critical repairs at this heritage hall. This funding boost means crucial floor repairs can begin much sooner than expected, and also providing a meaningful relief to our budget. And I also thank the Ipswich RSL sub-branch for their strong advocacy as well. And also I know the Division 3 councils have also been very strong advocates as well. Also in the report, I see our focus on strengthening community spaces continued in March with the reopening of the refurbished Redbank Plaza Library. It's already proving its value with our growing community with better access, a redesigned children's area, improved computers and more study spaces. Now has a full program of events back on board at the library, and it continues to serve as a vital community hub for families and students and older residents. With our Ipswich Art Gallery, we saw a cultural milestone for our city. We are hosting a major retrospective of one of Australia's most significant living artists, and now for the last 2 decades, Ipswich resident Leonard Brown. The exhibition spans 5 decades of work, and this exhibition is expected to draw visitors from right across Queensland and further elevate Ipswich's reputation as a centre for arts and culture. And as we celebrate the places and the people that are shaping our city, we're also taking important steps to preserve and share our past. On the city's 166th birthday in March, Council began digitising our historical council minutes, opening a new window into Ipswich's early years. These records date back to the 3rd of March 1860, when our very first mayor and aldermen were planning roads, bridges and services for a community of just 3,601 people. Now, thanks to this digitisation project, residents can now explore those original minutes, from gold hunting expeditions led by colourful characters like Captain John G. Mikosh, and to everyday decisions that laid the foundations for the Ipswich that we know, which is now home to 275,000 people. We also have on Picture Ipswich some fascinating insights onto our city, including there was an Ipswich Punch cartoon and newsletter that's quite amusing to read through as well.
Yeah.
I'll then open up to Councillor Augustine as a seconder to speak to the report.
Oh, thank you, Mayor. Mayor, yes, I just want to highlight a couple of matters. Obviously, you've spoken about the Leonard Brown presentation at the Art Gallery. That night was just absolutely amazing. We couldn't host it inside. We had to host it outside because there was it drew 400 attendees to the Art Gallery that night. So, Ipswich Art Gallery, yeah, kudos to you for us to attract such a high-level artist. And then the Ipswich, we showcase the best of our 2026 visitors by, I must say I was delighted to launch, in your absence, Mayor, the 2026 Ipswich Visitation Guide, with Twigley Farm being our face of Ipswich this year. So they were chuffed, to say the least, to be on the cover of the guide. And the guide, it showcases, highlights our diverse tourism experiences, different events, local characters. So if you haven't, have a read of that. I think it's a very good one. I actually give out a lot of them to all of whoever will take them. I give them out to them because I want them to know what really good activities and events we hold here in Ipswich. The third one and the last one, Mayor, is the Creators Summit Ipswich. The future belongs to the weird. I just love that title. So for those that went, I think you would agree that the summit was really great for our creatives in the city, and we also drew creatives from Southeast Queensland into the day as well. There was a lot of networking, inspiration by all the ideas that our creatives put on show. But I must say I was really mesmerised by Ben Lee and his interview. It was just like he was talking to you. Meanwhile, the whole hall was packed. So that's my favourite of that whole Creator Summit. So yeah, thank you, Mayor.
Councillor Antonelli.
Oh, yes, thank you. If I can raise a couple of things, Mayor. Just firstly, I'd like to thank Don Stewart and his team for the work he's put together with respect to the funding and the future works to fix the floor problems there at the Soldiers Memorial Hall. A great asset for our city, a great memorial. And just in relation to that, I think that I'm certainly not alone in asking the CEO of this, but if I can ask the CEO on behalf of all the councillors, if we can pass on to the staff who prepared all the memorials around the city for Anzac Day our enormous thanks for the way they were presented and the thanks of the community. I received countless approaches from people, members of RSLs and residents of Ipswich, highlighting how well our memorials looked for Anzac Day, if that can be passed on behalf of all councillors.
Through the Chair, certainly we'll make sure we pass that on to all staff involved. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Any other discussion? Yes, Councillor Madsen.
Yeah, as the appropriate chairperson, I just wanted to commend the CEO and the executive leadership team on the opening of the Redbank Plaza Library and the refurbishment that's happened there. The staff that we have in council libraries are, warm, inviting, kind, great people who are a credit to our organisation. And while I'm very happy that there's that improved facility for the community. I'm equally really proud to see our council reinvigorate that, what is a workplace for those people, and match the efforts of what they provide to the community. So I commend all involved on a successful project, and would invite anyone to go and attend that library if they haven't already. It's been a great upgrade.
Apologies, I don't have it. I do remember seeing that there was a late report for finance. Is it the finance performance report? And I know that Councillor Tully and I were emailed as the mayor and the chair of the Finance and Governance Committee. I apologise, I don't have my pack and I haven't read it.
Just for your awareness, Chair, it's not in the LG Hub as a late report, from what I can see.
In that case, I'd say that we probably can't proceed with it. CEO, I seek your advice, but if it's not in the LG Hub and we haven't received it, okay.
Yeah.
So I think we'll have to go to the next
I agree
finance and
with
governance.
that. Yeah, we'd both signed off to have that as a late report,
Yeah.
but I think it's
one of those
I don't
things.
think there's anything exceptional in it. But
I don't know.
Well, yeah, but I think prudence would mean that we just defer it because it's
obviously-
not critical.
I would expect they would have raised things. Thank you. So we're on to item 17.1, which is the notice of motion on the potential impacts on the City of Ipswich LGA from the proposed transport and other legislation, in brackets, managing e-mobility use and protecting our community's amendment, Bill 2026. I'll hand over to you, Councillor Madsen, as the mover.
Thanks,
to move it
Mayor.
and then we'll get a seconder.
I'd like to move it, but I have an amendment for Part B that probably better deals with what I'm seeking to accomplish.
Okay.
I also just wanted to take the moment, I haven't discussed it with Councillor Tully, but I was advised by a few people to use one of his favourite words, forthwith. So I look forward to enjoying that being in the motion.
So do we have a second, or do you wish to proceed? Oh, there's... there. May I ask why I wasn't engaged on this particular one, since it's tasking me?
I'd received feedback from other persons that because I had CEO write to the minister that I should update that to you, so that's why I've done that.
Okay.
If you're not comfortable with that, Mayor, I'm happy to change it.
No, I just wondered because it
CEO.
involves me and I know nothing about it till now. Can we look at it? Sorry, I can't see it. Do you wish to read out the amendment so the public will know they've changed?
Yeah, so the amendment
B?
is that the Mayor write to the Minister for Transport and Main Roads to express the above concerns and request funding for the implementation of any changes forced onto the Council as a result of the State Government's legislative reforms should they proceed. Said correspondence to be sent forthwith, and all correspondence on this matter between the Mayor and Minister be shared once available with all councillors.
Yep. No worries, I'll do that anyway. No worries. Okay, thank you. Do we have a seconder for this motion? The Councillor Madden did say. Yep. I'll hand over to you, Councillor Madsen.
Thank you, Mayor. I've brought this notice of motion today because many of you will be aware through a lot of the media and coverage on the proposed reforms at the state government level. Principally, I've tried to focus on the impacts that it'll have on council as a municipality. I, in principle, have no issues with the proposed amendments that are seeking to crack down on illegal e-bike use and provide greater safety outcomes, as there's a lot of unsafe things happening out and about. But that being said, there's a few things that impact people locally that I thought it was worthwhile for the council having a position on it. The following motion is my position. I've split it into 4 points that I think are the really sort of salient features that we should discuss today. The first one is that the changes to the bill substantially make it harder to use e-bikes lawfully. People have been using legal e-bikes and operating them safely will have some impacts on them. And I think to remove that as a transport option for Ipswich people, particularly during the fuel crisis and what's ongoing there, is not necessarily what the state government should be seeking to do. Further to that, we've got a lot of long-term planning here in Ipswich around transport initiatives. One of the key critical areas for the council is to try and shift people to more sustainable methods of travel. The impact on bikeways and shared paths from a bike is a lot less to our municipal infrastructure than that of a car. So people who take on this as their way of commuting are helping make our council more sustainable. So we really do want to see people use these sort of innovations to commute to and from work and in their recreation impacts. One of the most, I guess, probably controversial aspects of the bill is that it seeks to put a 10-kilometre-hour speed limit on shared pathways for e-bikes. This is a bit confusing to many people because that speed limit won't apply to a non-e-bike, i.e. a regular bicycle. I'm sure all of us have seen at times where people have been a bit quick on a footpath, but that shared pathways actually covers things that we call bikeways, which principally have been built to encourage this method of bike transport. So I would wager the Brassel Bikeway is actually built so that people can safely travel on a bicycle faster than 10 kilometres an hour. And imposing that speed limit on the Brassel Bikeway would have a negative impact for Ipswich people. Thirdly, we have long-term planning that will be negatively impacted. One of the values of e-mobility devices is that they've made these things more accessible for people. So people who aren't particularly good on a bike, like myself, they can get the assistance of a battery-powered e-bike, or people with other mobility concerns. It means that they can use a bikeway and commute this way without a car. It also means that people can do things recreationally, like the Brisbane Valley Rail Trail, where they may not yet be at the level to ride a bicycle without that level of assistance. And then lastly, I think the biggest problem for our council is in terms of going out and updating all of our shared pathways with signage and making sure that that all complies. I'm not personally aware that they're seeking to devolve a level of enforcement under our council, but we certainly don't really have the financial capacity to start patrolling bikeways and booking people for breaching any of these legislations. And I'm unsure the police do. So I just want to make sure that we're not on the hook for any costs there that we certainly haven't budgeted for. And lastly, I want this letter to go quickly because the matter had 2 committee hearings this week, and it's a matter before the Parliament. So I want to make sure that it's received by the state before they go to vote on any of this. Just lastly, there's been some media indicating that Gold Coast Council and Brisbane Council have expressed similar concerns. I would like to acknowledge Byron from Ipswich Tribune Today, which on their front page a number of weeks ago had concerns from the Mayor of Somerset Council on the impact for their tourism corridor with the Brisbane Valley Rail Trail, which we share, and it's certainly a beloved recreation piece for many people in Ipswich. And to make that less accessible for people as part of this legislation when they've been safely using legal e-bikes, I don't think is correct. So that's my motion. Happy to discuss further. Thank you for your time, everyone.
I'll go over to, thank you for your passion. I'll go to Councillor Madden as the seconder.
Thanks, Mayor. Yes, I share the concerns of Councillor Madsen with regard to the bikeways and that are principally located in Division 4, the Brassel Bikeway Network and the lower section of the Brisbane Valley Rail Trail. And many times that I've been at the hub at the end of the rail trail, I've noticed that a majority of bikes now that are using that are e-bikes. And I know exactly how fast 10 kilometres an hour is, because that's the speed limit at the Willowbank Cabin Park, and it's almost walking pace. And when you consider how fast non-e-bikes go in the flat sections of the bikeway and the Brisbane Valley Rail Trail, it's sort of incongruous that because you've got an e-bike, you can't go at that reasonable speed. There's also the issue of safety. When you travel the 161 kilometre Brisbane Valley Rail Trail, your job is to get to the next place you're spending the night. And the idea that you may have to do a lot of that trip in the dark by complying with the speed limit just raises all sorts of safety issues. So I know good intentions with legislation, Mayor, good intentions, but this is an example of where they're going to have to make an exception with regard to shared pathways and bikeways. And I'm sure it's just a matter of tweaking the legislation to exclude these facilities that are very, very popular with e-bikes. And I've never had a complaint about an e-bike on the Brisbane Valley Rail Trail or the Brassil Bikeway network. So they're clearly, sensible people, and hopefully the minister will see that there needs to be amendment to legislation. Thanks, Mayor.
I think Councillor Tully had his lot on next.
Yeah, thanks, Mayor. This legislation commenced as a result of a lot of accidents, injuries and deaths, particularly in the Brisbane area. I guess it's one of those pieces of legislation where, and this came out of the parliamentary committee hearings in relation to unintended consequences. That's the bugbear, I guess, of our local laws or state or federal legislation. The good intentions sometimes can be outweighed by circumstances which weren't envisaged. One of the issues, and I support this particular motion, for the shared bikeways. It would be inappropriate for a 10 kilometre per hour speed limit on some of our shared paths. And I trust that the final legislation will ensure that we've got the flexibility, presumably as a council, to set a higher speed limit. But I raise the broader issue. We don't have any commercial e-bikes for hire in Ipswich at the moment. But the issue on the Gold Coast and in Ipswich, which I'll refer to, and this has come up already, that delivery drivers on bikes, such as pizza delivery drivers, would have to get a learner's licence to continue to provide their service. Well, you see that they're currently on the bikes, and that's $77.55 that someone would have to stump up. And these are in the eastern suburbs of Ipswich and in other areas where pizzas and other food are being delivered. I probably should declare a conflict of interest given my usage of this on occasions when the bikes turn up. But I am serious in the point I'm making that this will be a major issue on the Gold Coast, in terms of the recreational vehicles. Tourists turning up from overseas, having to go to one of the 4 TMR offices on the Gold Coast to get the learner's licence. They've got to do the exam. They've got to get 27 out of 30 questions right in the exam. They've got 1 year to get the exam right, so and they probably have to do it multiple occasions. What has come out at the parliamentary committee is that that's going to be a serious issue for some of these companies. It's and the evidence of identity at the moment, it's in relation to Queensland, Australian, or in some cases overseas identity, and that's 2 or 3 items of evidence. It would mean pretty well that a tourist coming from overseas would be unable to ride one of these bikes, and I think that is a serious issue. From a tourist point of view, that's not the major issue here, but I do think that some of the deliveries we get, as I mentioned, in our suburbs are part and parcel of what people accept. Not all of it is done through motor vehicles, but to say that someone riding a push bike not a push bike, an e-bike for a Domino's or an equivalent company, that they've got to get a learner's licence, to me is over the top. I just urge the government to look at our motion, to look at the specific issue that we're raising, but also the other issue that has been raised about whether or not the requirement for a learner's licence is appropriate in every case. Some of these commercial operators, I don't think it should be, and they should self-regulate that rather than forcing it on and creating that unintended consequence.
Thank you. I think, Councillor, you did have... No? Anyone else? I'd like to speak to some. I want to acknowledge, like Councillor Tully did too, that the state is responding to a very real issue. The rise in e-mobility has brought serious safety concerns, including injuries and, unfortunately, fatalities. And it's appropriate that the legislation is being strengthened. The community has been asking for clearer rules and better enforcement, and I support the overall intent of this inquiry to improve safety for riders, road users and pedestrians. At the same time, I do share Councillor Mads' concern that a blanket 10 kilometres per hour limit on shared paths is too slow for many of the routes that were purpose-built for cycling and active transport. And I've got to say, someone, must admit it was back in the 90s, I used to have a cycling racing licence, so I used to compete with normal bikes, but I used to also commute when I was living in Sydney as well. And when you're commuting, you're doing at least 20 to 30 kilometres an hour riding around the streets. So it is impractical. We need regulation that improves safety without making our existing infrastructure less functional than it was designed to be. Just, have you got that? Yep, thank you. I also strongly support raising the issue of cost shifting. If the state introduces new requirements for signage or pathway markings, those costs should not fall on local governments. Any mandated changes should be funded by the level of government that creates them. I do intend to support this notice of motion, but in managing expectations, I think it's worth noting that the opportunity to provide submissions to the parliamentary inquiry as well as to the parliamentary committee process have now closed, and the report on the relevant bill is due to be tabled next Friday. So we are likely too late to influence the outcome. However, I do note that these concerns have been raised in other submissions to the Parliamentary Committee, in particular through the submission from the Local Government Association of Queensland. I'll open for other discussion. Deputy Mayor.
Thanks, Mayor. Just wanted to comment that Ipswich is known for its livability, its open spaces and recreation. So I think that the proposed legislation as it currently stands is going to impinge on that because of the speed limit. I've done the Brisbane Valley Rail Trail, and I was insanely jealous of people on e-bikes whizzing past me because they were basically guaranteed to get to the next pit stop and have lunch ordered before I was there. And I never, ever once had a concern for safety. 10 kilometres an hour is a slow jog. And if you're on a uneven surface like gravel and you're on a bike at 10 kilometres an hour, then you are in danger of having a stack, especially if you're clumsy like me. So I think that the way it's written, there's changes that need to be made to incorporate everything that everyone's discussed, so that it covers everything. Thank you.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. I'll open for others. No? In that case, I'll go to you, Councillor Madsen, and Rod.
Thanks, Mayor, and thanks for your contribution this morning. Lastly, I just want to reiterate, I'm of the same opinion. If these reforms can increase safety and reduce accidents where people are harmed, 100% okay with that. This is more about just where people are using these devices properly and they're lawful and they haven't been hacked, doing sort of speeds and modifications that are already illegal, I should say. They should be allowed to continue to do the right thing if people are doing the right thing, focus on the people who are doing the wrong thing. Just for clarification, who anyone may not know, because before I was a councillor, the language of shared pathways and footpaths and bikeways is all pretty meaningless to me. I'm pretty confident everyone, a regular footpath like in the city centre here, I know that a few of you have been in the Nicholas Street precinct and we've seen people not using e-bikes safely in what is a pedestrian area. When we're talking about shared pathways, we're talking about things that are built for bikes and those sorts of things. So there is that, I guess, dichotomy, and I want to be clear about that. Where the infrastructure is appropriate for bikes, I'm happy for e-bikes to be used safely. Thank you.
Thank you. Put the matter to the vote. Those in favour, please raise your hand. That's unanimous and carried. Thank you. Item 18 is the other questions on notice. There are none that I've detected. So I'll close the meeting at 11:36 a.m. Thank you very much.